Remnant and Online family. I'm Pastor John Widdifield with Remnant Church in Fuquay Varina, North Carolina, and this is the Midweek Refuel, where we seek out the ancient paths and the ancient wisdom so that we can continue to improve our eternal present. Today's lesson is it's frightening in its scope. It is another lesson that I am just a little hesitant to teach. One, for its ramifications, and two, its implications, and three, its difficulty. The ramifications of this thought frighten me. The thought exercise itself is uncomfortable in its implications to us. Does Chronos eat his children, or is there any hope for them at all? In Greek mythology, there is a titan who is named Chronos, and sources say that Chronos was one of the titans, the divine descendants of Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth. After overthrowing his father Uranus, Chronos became the ruler of the universe. However, Uranus and Gaia prophesied that Chronos would be overthrown by one of his own children, just as he had overthrown his father. To prevent this prophecy from coming true, Chronos took drastic measures. Whenever his wife Rhea gave birth, Chronos would swallow the child whole, trapping them inside of his own body. This happened with their first 5 children. And I hope I'm saying these right: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. And Chronos believed that by consuming them, he could prevent them from growing up and challenging his rule. For what happens when one of the children defeats sin and death? And that is what time does. It is the father and it is the executioner. It is Chronos. Time gives birth and time demands a death. The cycle is continuous. Time is the symptom of a diseased mind, or perhaps it is the cause of a diseased mind. Who knows? One of my favorite stories, both the movie and the television show series, is called The 12 Monkeys. If you haven't seen it, it's fun. It is a show that plays with time and the ravages of Chronos himself. In the TV version, one group wishes to keep time just a-rolling, while another group hopes to raise Zeus's poison to Chronos's lips to make him vomit up his children. The show makes subtle suggestions to us that the gods are on the prowl once again. For the very machine that bends time for them, the time machine in the television show, is known as the Titan Project. One side sees Chronos as the giver of life. The other side accuses him of swallowing every child that was ever born. Do we actually flow through time? Or is time how a conscious mind breaks up the eternal now in order to understand it at all? Does time perhaps wash over us as a gift from God, or do we swim through it? Is it a gift, or is it a curse? Is it birth, or is it burial? Or is it some strange eternal existence of a reality that, quite honestly, wouldn't make much sense to us if we saw the entire picture all at one time? It is appointed unto man once to die, and it is the flow of time that sets the date. Birthday parties and genocides all take place within the tyrant's belly. Ouroboros devours itself as we sing to his songs and as we weep to his dirges. The Augustinian language becomes a labyrinth of time-dictated enigmas and false starts. Listen to him, listen to Augustine as he questions the universe around him. Quote, "What word then did you speak when you commanded that there should be a physical entity by which those words should be?" Unquote. To Augustine, there was a word that was spoken before there was physicality in which to speak or to hear it. A first word, a necessary word, a word through which all other words and definitions find their source and their spring. A source word, a word that is spoken outside of time, about time, and creates time in the exercise. Zeus overthrew Chronos by freeing them from Chronos's tyranny. Chronos overthrew Uranus by gelding him. Jesus overthrew them all by breaking the chains of temporal power altogether. He did not merely shift the balance of power or alter the course of history. He transcended history itself. In his resurrection, Jesus shattered the finality of death, the ultimate weapon of Chronos, transforming it into a mere transition rather than an ending. He did not wage war with force or with violence, but with sacrificial love that conquered the grave. In doing so, Jesus established in that moment a kingdom not limited by the passage of time, but instead marked by the eternal presence of God's grace. Where the myths of old speak of violent overthrow and the endless cycle of birth and destruction, the karmic wheel, the gospel speaks of redemption and a new creation altogether. In this divine narrative, the Word that was in the beginning became flesh, lived among us, died, and rose again, inaugurating an era where time no longer holds us captive. The eternal Word, unbound by time, offers us a place in the story that neither ends nor fades away. A story written not in the sands of time, but in the heavens of eternity. Augustine tells us that there is a truth so overwhelming and so ego-destroying that sin itself causes us to be blind to it. Or as the scriptures tell us, to look straight at God is to die. The fount of ego-destroying truth is called wisdom. Or let us expand our imaginative landscapes just a little. It is also called logos, word, reason, the divine order that holds the cosmos together. It is the eternal law that governs all of creation, the light that illuminates the darkness of our understandings. The wisdom is the very breath of God, the creative force that spoke the universe itself into existence. It is a truth so pure and so unyielding that it lays bare the illusions that we craft around ourselves, stripping away the facades of pride and self-sufficiency. In this wisdom, we encounter a reality that transcends our finite existence, a reality that calls us to humility, to repentance, and a radical reorientation of our lives toward the divine. It is a truth that demands the surrender of our egos, the relinquishment of our false idols, and the embrace of a higher eternal perspective. To perceive this truth is to glimpse the infinite, to be drawn into the mystery of the divine, and to be transformed in the light of God's perfect love and his perfect justice. Augustine, lamenting this tragic reality, he writes this, quote, "But when its light, that is wisdom, is cut off from me by the darkness and mass of my punishments, what sin has wrought, the cloud covers me again, my strength fails me because of my poverty, and I cannot endure what is good for me until you, O Lord, who has forgiven me all my iniquities, also heal all my diseases. For you also will redeem my life from corruption and crown me with loving kindness and mercy and satisfy my heart's desire with good things, renewing my youth like an eagle's," unquote. Finally, Augustine, agitated by those thinkers around him, says this, quote, "They endeavor to be wise in eternal matters, but their heart still flutters around concerned with the motion of things past and future. It is still vain," unquote. To understand the Augustinian concept of time and the eternal now, one must take one's eyes off of the past and away from the future and instead enter into that liminal space that is here in God's mind eternally. I have heard of very limited and stunted imaginations that picture a God who is in time with us, a God with a long gray beard holding an hourglass, a God as caught in time as you and I are. Christianity, however, posits a different God, a God who is outside of time, a God who requires that all our talk about clocks and second hands give way to the eternal now, a God who foreknows and allows free will all at the same time, a God who designed you from the beginning of the world, who had you in mind when he sent the word to become flesh and free you from the bondage of time and death, a God who casts down titans, gelds primordial leviathans, and steps out of the grave itself to display to the world that time, sin, and death have all been brought under the authority of the Son of Man. The mysteries of today's lessons, well, they're legion. We step out into the realm of eternity and find that the infinite metaphysic overwhelms us, and our sin-stained ego flinches in the face of light and in the face of truth. Jesus tells us that one day we will know as we are known. Until then, I long for every glimpse through that dark glass that the good Lord will provide to me. I hope today's reading expands your imagination. I hope that today's reading increases your concept of God, of time, and of your place in it. We have left the land of gentle transformation and have entered into the thrilling and breathtaking undiscovered country. I hope you find yourself falling through time and space and eternity with the abandonment afforded to you as a child of God. Turn, if you will, now to Book 11, chapters 7 through 11. If you need a copy, you can get it from Project Gutenberg. There's a link down in the description. And while we turn and find our place, please take a moment, if you would, to slap the bell and punch the like button. Each click affords us more chances to make a difference in someone's life. So thank you so very much. You call us then to understand the Word, the God that with you is God, who is spoken eternally, and by whom all things are spoken eternally. Nor did you finish saying one thing and say another so that all things might be spoken. You spoke them at once and eternally. Otherwise, there would be time and change, and neither true eternity nor true immortality. This I know, O Lord, and I give thanks. This I know and confess to you. All who are not ungrateful for a constant truth know this, and bless you with me. We know, O Lord, that insofar as what used to exist does not exist, it dies. And insofar as what used not to exist does exist, it comes into being. But no part of your word either yields place or takes the place of anything, for it exists truly immortal and eternal. By your word, therefore, who is co-eternal with you, you say once and eternally all that you say. And whatever you say should come into being, comes into being. By speaking alone, you make it, yet not all that you make by speaking comes into being at once and eternally. Why is this so, O Lord? I see why after a fashion, but how to express it I do not know, unless by saying that everything that begins or ceases to be begins or ceases to be at just that moment when it is deemed in the eternal reason in which nothing begins or ceases, that it ought to have begun or ceased. That reason is your word, who is also the beginning, for he also speaks to us. Thus he says in the gospel, through the flesh, he uttered these outward sounds for the ears of men, to the end that they might believe and seek and find him inwardly in the eternal truth, where the good and only teacher teaches all his disciples. It is here that I hear your voice, O Lord, as you tell me that he who speaks to us is he who teaches us, and that he who does not teach us, even though he speaks, does not speak to us. And who is our teacher if not the abiding truth? Even when we receive intimations through your creation, which is subject to change, it is to the abiding truth that we are led. There we learn in truth when we abide and listen to him and rejoice greatly at the voice of the bridegroom and return ourselves to our source. He is the beginning, For if he did not remain firm while we went astray, there would be no place to which we could return. But when we return from our wandering, it is by coming to know the truth that we return. In order that we might come to know the truth, he teaches us, for he is the beginning, and he speaks to us. In the beginning, O God, you made heaven and earth in your word, in your Son, in your strength, in your wisdom, in your truth, wondrously speaking, wondrously making. Who can understand it? Who can proclaim it? What is it that flashes now and again upon me and pierces my heart without wounding me? I shudder and burn. Inasmuch as I am unlike it, I shudder. Inasmuch I am like it, I burn. It is wisdom, wisdom itself, that flashes upon me, rending the cloud that surrounds me. But when its light is cut off from me by the darkness and mass of my punishments, the cloud covers me again. My strength fails me because of my poverty, and I cannot endure what is good for me, until you, O Lord, who have forgiven me all my iniquities, also heal all my diseases. For you also will redeem my life from corruption and crown me with loving kindness and mercy, and satisfy my heart's desire with good things, renewing my youth like an eagle's. For by hope we are saved, and with patience we look for your promises. Let him who can hear you speak within. I shall confidently proclaim with the psalmist, how manifold are your works, O Lord, in wisdom you have made all things. That wisdom is the beginning, and in that beginning you made heaven and earth. But full of the old ways are those who say to us, what was God doing before he made heaven and earth? If he was on leave and not engaged in any work, why did he not continue to postpone his work forever, as he had always done before? If some impulse arose in God, some new will to establish a creation that he had not established previously, how could his be a true eternity, in which all will arose which had not existed before? For the will of God is not a creation, but is before creation, seeing as nothing is created without the Creator's prior willing of it. The will of God pertains to his very substance. But if something arose in the substance of God that did not exist previously, that substance could not truly be called eternal. But if God's will that creation should exist were eternal, why was creation also not eternal? Those who say such things do not yet understand you. Wisdom of God, light of the mind. They do not yet understand how the things that come about in you and through you do come about. They endeavor to be wise in eternal matters, but their heart still flutters around, concerned with the motions of things past and future. It is still vain. Who will hold it fast and fix it down, that it may abide for a while and grasp for a while the radiance of the ever-abiding eternity, to compare it with the never-abiding temporalities, and to see that it is beyond comparison? That no time, however long, may become so, except from a multitude of tiny points in time which cannot all be drawn out together at once. But in eternity nothing passes away, the whole is present, whereas no time is fully present. Let them see also that all past is pushed away from the future, and all future time follows on from the past, and that all time past and future is created by that which is always present and proceeds from it. Who will hold fast the heart of man, that it may abide and see how the abiding eternity, neither past nor future, dictates the past and the future? Can my hand do this, or the hand of my tongue accomplish by spoken words so great a thing? I wish I had any idea what he means when he says, quote, but in eternity nothing passes away, the whole is present, whereas no time is fully present, unquote. I am trapped in time. I await the next moment, the next breath, the next day, always moving forward, never fully grasping the present moment. In my human experience, time is a constant march, a relentless sequence of moments slipping through my fingers. I can only see the fleeting now, while eternity remains an elusive concept beyond my grasp. How can I, bound by the chains of temporal existence, even begin to fathom a state where the past, present, and future are all one, where Trinity is real, where every moment exists simultaneously and nothing fades away. All the same, the passage fills me with an awareness of purpose, of reason, an awareness of love. Each moment that we have is a gift from my Father in heaven. My Father doesn't eat his children. He brings them into existence and gifts them with the gift of eternity. Though I struggle to grasp it fully, my soul knows the truth of it. My soul finds harmony with it. As we reflect on these profound ideas, I want you to consider these questions. How do you perceive time in your own life? Do you see it as a gift or as a burden or as something else entirely? Augustine speaks of a word that creates time itself. How does this concept challenge or deepen your understanding of the nature of God? And finally, in what ways can recognizing God's eternal presence change the way you approach your daily life and your daily decisions? Let us end with two quotes from the Confessions. Quote, "He is the beginning, for if he did not remain firm while we went astray, well, there would be no place to which we could return." And finally, quote, "In this beginning, O God, you made heaven and earth in your word, in your Son, in your strength, in your wisdom, in your truth, wondrously speaking, wondrously making. Who can understand it? Who can proclaim it?" Unquote. The mystery of today's lesson are many as we venture into the infinite metaphysic and encounter truths that challenge our very perception of the world around us. Christ, the eternal Word, transcends all. He transcends time, sin, and death. As we contemplate these massive truths, may we embrace the eternal now, knowing that our King has triumphed over all. Christ is King. Hail to the King. And he is one of the created gods, as opposed to Uranus, who